Hey my glam girls, welcome back to my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. So today we are going to be talking about the new NARS Laguna all over face palette. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate it. If you are new, I would love for you to click on that subscribe button and join the Glam Girl Squad because we love to have you. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for deciding to come back and support my channel with all of the engagement that you choose to give me, watching the video, liking, commenting, shopping through my links down below. I truly appreciate you and I truly appreciate your support. So let's get right into this video. So like I said, we have the new Laguna Ultimate Face Palette 1. NARS did come out with two versions of these. And here is an up close view of this palette. I have already used it once, so I do have some thoughts about this palette. So this palette is currently sold now at Sephora and Nordstrom, as well as NARS. It does retail for $59. And NARS says that this is a limited edition all-in-one face palette that features eyeshadows, bronzers, and a highlighter, and is inspired by NARS' iconic shade Laguna. So it says that this Ultimate Face Palette features 4 eyeshadows, 2 bronzers, and 1 illuminating highlighter for warm, lit from within skin. The eyeshadows provide high impact color in one swipe. The Silky Laguna bronzing powder pigments deliver long-lasting warmth and blend effortlessly for a natural tanned effect. The Luminous highlighter powder melts into skin and softly diffuses to a ultra-refined, radiant effect. So getting into the actual swatches of the palette, I'll swatch the eyeshadows first and then I'll get into the bronzer and highlighter. So we're gonna start with this rose gold shade here. This is called Spritz, and this is described as a shimmer rose gold. Next we have Unwind, which is a matte peach pink. And I'm gonna swatch that one again so you all can see it better. Okay, there we go. Heat Spell is a satin rust brown. And then lastly for the eyeshadows, we have Sizzle, which is a shimmer yellow gold. So these are the eyeshadows. The first bronzer shade is Laguna 02, which is the original Laguna shade, and it is for light medium bronze with neutral undertone complexion. Next we have Laguna 4, which is for medium bronze with warm undertone complexions. And I'll put that right here. And then the highlighter is called Drift Away, and this is a champagne shimmer. So these are all of the shades in palette 1. Okay, so now let's get into the demonstration. So let's start off with the bronzer. So we'll start off with Laguna 02. And I'm going in with a Refer 04 brush. This is a natural hair brush, goat hair brush. And we will start bronzing. Now, NARS Laguna bronzer, I am not new to. I used to own this bronzer a couple of times over. I really enjoy this bronzer. If you know me, then you know that some of my favorite bronzers have a more neutral undertone, and I feel like this gives you the most beautiful neutral undertone to the skin that's not too cool, it's not too warm because it's neutral, it is perfection. So we'll just add a little bit here, and it's gorgeous. Simply gorgeous. FYI, I do have a very, very light amount of cream bronzer on first. So if you see like a little bronze on this side, it's that one. But you can obviously see the NARS bronzer on top. Now let's get into 04. I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going in with the Refer 37 brush, just because I don't want to mix the tones up. I do like that the bronzer is nice and pigmented, so you don't have to use a lot of bronzer to get it to show on the skin. I'm just going in with small amounts of the bronzer because I don't want it to get, you know, too muddy or apply too much to where I'm like, eesh, I did too much. But this one you can definitely see has more warmth to it compared to the original Laguna 02 shade, which I do like. I think both of them are great to have in this palette because depending on the type of bronze you're going for, you've got both options. For me, I would either use, it would depend, because if I'm trying to go for more of like a warm look, I'm going to go for 04. If I'm going for more of like a neutral look, then I'll go with 02. But I think both of them look really beautiful on the face. The powders blend very smooth. Did not take a lot to blend it into the skin. And like I said, I really enjoy the pigmentation, that you don't have to go in with a lot of products to try to just get a little bit of product to show on the face. So I think this is beautiful. Let's get into the eyeshadow. So I want to go in with this shade right here, this matte shade for a blush. Now I know it's a small pan, but you know, they said all over face. And this shade looks like it could be a pretty blush shade. So I'm taking a Rephr 18 brush. I'm just dipping the tip in it, but as you can see, we get a lot of product. There is, you know, some fallout in these powders, which, I mean, that never bothered me, but if that's something that you don't like or you like to be aware of, there is definitely some kick up. But if you've got a brush and you can, you know, fit your brush into this shade, this is a beautiful, beautiful blush shade. This is gorgeous. The first time I used this palette, I actually didn't do this. So I am definitely enjoying this as a blush. Because when you say all over face, I want to be able to use the palette as much as possible. So if I were like, you know, either in a situation where this was the only palette that I brought for all over face outside of complexion, I want to be able to get as much use out of it. So I always like to see, you know, in palettes like this, like what shades can I use as a blush? You know, what shades can I actually, you know, get more use out of than what they're normally being marketed as. So yes, definitely enjoying this shade as a blush, and it's nice and pigmented. So once again, if you're around my complexion, you're going to be able to see these shades on your skin. Okay, so now let's get into the eye demo. So I'm gonna go in with the shade Laguna 02 for my eye look, but I'm also going to use this as a nose contour. So I'm going to start at the transition area of the eye, and with circular motions, we're going to go and follow the natural curvature of my orbital bone and then down the bridge of the nose. Nothing fancy here for a nose contour, just following the natural curves of my face. And as you can see here, we just get a very nice slight contour to the face. Nothing intense, nothing heavy, but just definitely bringing in some, what do I want to call this? Definitely enhancing the features that I have around the transition area of the eye and then down my nose. And I'm using a BK Beauty X Angie Hot and Flashy A502 brush. Okay, now we're gonna go in with 02 and we're gonna take same brush and just enhance the crease of the eye and bring in some depth to the eye. Now, if you're somebody who, you know, you don't do a lot of eyeshadow, you tend to maybe just go in with your bronzer for eyeshadow, or you might do like, you know, a transition shade and a shimmer shade, this palette will be perfect for you for those types of looks. You're not going to get the most diverse looks in terms of like eyeshadows with this palette because you've got 4 shades. There's only one matte shade. You've got this satin shade that you could use as a matte shade. But I would say that you're not going to get the most diversity of eye looks with this palette, but there's enough in here to where you won't be repeating the same 1 or 2 shades every time you use it. And what helps to give you more options are having these bronzer shades and also the highlighter shade, because of course you can use that on the eye. So I do feel like this palette does offer enough diversity and enough tones in the palette to give you different types of looks to where you're not going to get the same look over and over again. But you're not going to get the most like deep, dark, smoky type of looks depending on your complexion. Like if it, for me, I'm not getting, you know, the most vampy and smoky looks with this palette just because these two shades here, the matte shades at the very least, are not going to be as deep as I would go for if I want an intense smoky eye. But I think for like everyday, like, you know, more simple looks, these eyeshadow tones and basically the whole color story is really perfect for like an everyday brunchy with the girls types look, maybe a simple date night type of look to the face. Soft glam, there we go, that's the better term. You can get up to a nice soft glam type of look with these tones. Okay, going in with this bronzy satin shade, and we're just gonna use that on the outer portion of the eye. I'm using a My Kit Co 1.5 brush. This is the My Small Shadow brush. And we're just going to start packing that along the outer portion of the eye. The shade is nice and intense. So if you have a tan complexion like me, you are going to see it. If you have a lighter complexion than me, obviously you're going to see it as well. And it will, you know, probably pull more copperish, copper bronzy-ish on the skin. Now we're going to go in with the shade Spritz. This is the rose gold shade. Same brush, just flipping it on the other side. And let's use that to pack on the rest of the lid. And then bringing it up into the crease and blending it over into that bronzy copper shade. I really like with this shade Spritz, you have this extra shimmer element to it that makes it like a really beautiful shimmer. So you see the rose gold type of tones to it with this nice beautiful gold essence to it that I just think is really, really beautiful. So I'm just blending out the edges here. I'll go back in with the brush that I use for the crease and transition, adding no extra product and just blending out the edges of the eye. I'm gonna go in with the Rephr B03 brush, and we're gonna take this gold shimmer, which this gold shimmer, you could also use this as a highlight if you wanted to. And I'm gonna take it and just put it right in the center of this eye look and bring it up to the brow for like a nice little spotlight effect. And this is beautiful. But yes, depending on your complexion, you could also use this shade as a highlight. Let's go in with the 04 Laguna shade. And let's use this across the lower lash line to smoke it out a little bit. And I think I will keep it like this. I'll go and add a nice brown eyeliner to the eye look to add a little bit more depth to the lower lash line. But here is an up close look of the eye look, just as is. And I will add the highlight. I'm going in with the My Kit Co 0.27 brush. This is the My Soft Powder brush. And we'll use this. It's a nice fluffy brush for the highlight. And I love me a beautiful champagne highlighter, and this one is gorgeous. And it says champagne, but I am seeing definitely more gold. I'm hoping you can see that in this particular highlight. Then I'm seeing more champagne, which is not a problem, but that is something to note. Especially if you do have a lighter to more fair complexion, this might be something, this highlighter might work for you, depending on how fair your complexion is, or it might be a tad too deep. Like I could see this being a little too deep for someone who's extremely fair. So let me finish off my makeup and I'll come back and share with you my final thoughts. Okay, so getting into my final thoughts on this palette, I think this NARS Laguna All Over Face palette is a very practical, everyday, soft glam type of palette. I had no issues with the pigmentation of any of these powders. The shimmers, in my opinion, are very nice and impactful. The satin formula here, you could use it as like a matte shade or also as like a low-key shimmer shade. But I really do enjoy the formulations of the eyeshadows and as well as the bronzers and the highlighter. The bronzers I knew were going to be beautiful because, like I said before, I owned Laguna 02, I want to say, before. So I am not disappointed in the performance of this palette or also in the tones of this palette. I do feel like for them only coming out with 2 palettes that I think they did, I can only speak on this one, but I think they did pretty good in terms of trying to make a palette that's going to really kind of span the spectrum from like fair complexions all the way up to tan complexions. I think if you have a tan complexion or lighter, then Face Palette 1 is going to be great for you. If you are on the line of like tan, deep, and deeper, then I would recommend palette 2. Now, because I don't have palette 2, I can't go into how deep I think that palette will work for. I do know the creator Enamored Beauty, Sunsaray. I did see that she has this palette, so I'm pretty sure she's going to be doing a nice demo with it. She has more of a brown complexion, so I'll tag her handle down below so you can check out her page. And that'll help you get an idea as to how palette 2 will work for you. I feel like, though, I kind of think I should have gone with palette 2. And here's the reason why. I feel like, especially for the upcoming summer months, I'm going to get more tan. I know I'm going to get more tan. And by the time this summer is over, I feel like even the 04 shade is not going to be as bronzy on my complexion as I'm gonna want it to be. So I think for my complexion, this is a great palette. For my winter spring complexion, I think palette 2 in terms of those bronzer shades will be better for when I have a tan. Now that's just me being like very particular in terms of like how I feel I'll use the palette. The eyeshadows are perfect in here because, you know, eyes are eyes. So as long as you've got some type of like transition shade to work for your eyes, I feel like, you know, eyeshadows are eyeshadows. I'm more so focusing on the more bronzer highlighter shades. I was about to say complexion. That's why I went for here and then I changed my mind. But I think, yeah, I think now going into the summer months, I think I wish I would have picked up palette 2. Because once again, I'm more so talking about the bronzer shade. The highlighter shade I think will work perfectly even when I get a tan. I think this highlighter shade will be great because it does have a nice gold shift to it. It's not solely like and truly champagne in its tone. Once again, if you have a fair complexion or a very light complexion, I think this palette will work quite nicely for you. You might lean more into Laguna 02 than 04, depending on how light your complexion is. And then, like I mentioned before, the highlighter shade, could work for you. It might be a tad too deep for you. But I think for the most part, the majority of the people in the light to tan complexion range can get some good use out of this palette. And like I did for today, I went in with an eyeliner to give my eyes more of a smoke since the Laguna 04 shade wasn't able to do like this type of smoke for me. But I think this is a solid palette. So if you were interested in it, I recommend picking it up. If you do have this palette or you have palette 2 and you are around my complexion, definitely leave your feedback down in the comment section below. Let us know how you like it, how you've been enjoying it. If you're interested in it, you know, we want to hear all the things. And if you made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing and joining the Glam Girl Squad because we love to have you. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye, guys.